Welcome back everyone to the Amazon EU Masters semi-finals. LDLC are looking unstoppable at this tournament, so I wanted to take a look at their setup for their first blood. This is an iconic play by this roster. It's one which they make look really, really easy, but actually a lot goes into it. So the first blood obviously happened in mid lane, and it happened in the Ahri LeBlanc matchup. So we're gonna go start off with, okay, how does this matchup work? What makes this so easy for, of course, Eika to take over this matchup and start making some really big trades in lane before the first kill comes through? As we can see here, Yike actually has wave control and is looking to get a chain through the wave to get onto Ahri if the kill's gonna go, if the clip is gonna stop playing. And what Yike ends up doing is getting the minions down to a very low HP. You can see them here. Because what Ahri wants to do is stand in the minions and stop that chain coming through. If you can stand in your minions, that chain's not gonna land. The skill shot's gonna be blocked. But at this point, you can already see that the wave is already starting to die. Eika takes control of that lane and takes a huge trade. That's part one of this setup that's already gone really, really well for them. The second thing which ends up happening at this point is that Eika has gone into that bot river, stayed around that mid lane, and goes to look into those raptors. They're really close. Bot lane also has priority at the same time, so DOS is ready to respond. And what this means is that Ahri can't play up, can't play in those minion waves, and ends up going down in that mid lane. Control of the jungle, control of that bot lane, allows mid lane to be open, allows Eika to get that first assist in, and that matchup starts snowballing out of control. LDLC, they were very organized about how they wanted to go about this first blood, and they executed it perfectly. And this led to a very strong early start into this game. So anyway, we're going to go talk over the rest of this game, however, at the desk with Medic and Dagda, so we can walk through the rest of this game.
I'm just going to walk across. You're not going to hurry. Come on.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep walking. I'm just sit down.
Anyway, yes, a great performance by LDLC to pick up game one of this series. And that early vision play, that early jungle, you know, DOS coming up as well. We talked about the jungle support synergy for LDLC really coming to the fore for them. It was interesting to see how the game then developed, because after that play, I think the three of us were like, oh, okay, well, it's just LDLC winning the game. But what Aggro Rogue were actually really good at doing was finding some fights that allowed them back into the game. How was it that Aggro Rogue were able to find these opportunities?
Yeah, so the big thing was just overextensions from LDLC, especially when we look at them trying to look for dives on that top side of the map. It felt like they were trying to bite off more than they can chew. Realistically, with this team, they'd already started to set up the good executables that they wanted. Start stacking dragons, we can look for team fights off that with this big old Malphite. Start looking to see if we can just kind of let Exakick scale into the later portion of the game. They already had that. He was picking up his 2 items nice and early. All the team fighting checkboxes has already been marked, but they tried to go for these dives, and that was where it started to fall apart, because suddenly you were able to get Rabble, who could counteract a lot of these and bring themselves back into the game.
And as we have a look over those dives and those plays in the mid game, how do you think LDLC were able to like strike back at that? Because it wasn't all Aggro Rogue all the time. This play though did get Aggro Rogue ahead.
And this is kind of one of the big problems about how the early game didn't really evolve for Aggro Rogue, because I was kind of sat there thinking, well, don't you need to do something about that top lane? And you can see what happens when that Malphite starts going, but then you're still doing into the Viego. So maybe LDLC get a little ahead of themselves because of that top lane state, and then Rabble gets to start really messing things up. If you forget about the Viego, they do a lot of work.
Yeah, and I think the big problem here is you're just not playing to your win conditions here as Aggro Rogue. Like, you are a ranged composition. You're the ones that are engaging. You're the ones that are burning flashes to try and chase people down. That just lends itself to LDLC to actually look for these plays. Like, Ragner tries to go for the engage, not quite able to make it work, but now you're playing melee into the LDLC you're trying to play at range at, and it all starts to fall apart. Especially, I actually kind of, like, at the beginning was kind of like, okay, yeah, you can see Sinmivak and FLICKR here. They can actually, like, start to poke, try to make some plays, but again, over chase, don't focus down the dragon, which is what you came for, and instead find themselves overextended into river, which opens up for LDLC to pick off 3.
And particularly in that last highlight, it felt like the hard work had been done. That was the legwork already there. You think, okay, there's no engage left, the Malphite ult's gone, surely we can fight this out. But then the fact that they do just choose to take that second part of that fight and that they get killed, with Xayah not even having to blow a flash, feels like it was a real overstep.
And it can feel like in those moments you have to make more of a play than perhaps you do, especially your 2 dragons down. Xayah's got 2 plates in the bot side. She's already scaling up. Your Ezreal isn't really sitting in a good position. You know you are falling behind in terms of the game state, and sometimes you feel like, well, if we can kill the Malphite, if we can get an extra kills here, perhaps we can claw ourselves back into the game.
Yeah, but that's why I didn't like this draft at all. I really thought there was a ton of issues. Like, this is a draft that has to get ahead in the early stages of the game, and you're not really giving yourselves the tools to do so, right? Like, you look at early dragon stacking potential, well, you want want, okay, well, let's see if we can steal 1 or 2 dragons away, because then if we're in that situation, it's going to be totally fine, because then we can actually like avoid dragon fights and look for cross-map plays. But that's not really what we got here, because you end up with the Ezreal in the bot lane. Well, then you're getting pushed in. That leads Zayed to be able to go across and pick up these early dragons. And then you look at like, oh, well, can Nautilus start to, roam on the map, maybe make some plays happen? With the Viego against the Kazakhs and a LeBlanc, like that's not really going to work out. So it just felt like you had too many things trying to do. Like there wasn't enough synergy in your early stages as to how you actually want to try and fight against this.
So on the first hand, I want to say, I definitely want to hear you rant about bad drafts again, because that's just, it's only one side of it. On the other side though, I think LDLC, this is a very stylistic draft for them. This is exactly how they want to play. They want to react in the early game. They want to make sure that they can be the ones really allowing the enemy team to come into them. And it felt like because of that early game onus put on to go Rogue, they were very comfortable with that.
They definitely were, and I think if you look at LDLC, they had both enough escape tools and enough engage tools in every lane apart from top lane, and you a Malphite. Like, yes, you're going to lose lane early game, but assuming you get to the mid game only a couple of deaths down, you are in a fine position. So that the Rogue draft did feel discordant. And I think that is the big thing that we're looking at coming into the next few games, is like, how can they find a little bit more synergy, a little bit more ease of execution to then play this early game and mid game as well as they did in this game, but with a composition that it just works a little stronger with.
And that's the thing, like this actually is a composition that if piloted correctly can do very, very well.
Sure.
Like when you've got these long range, it can work out super good if you're able to play that. This is a composition that we don't even see from LCS teams, we see by very few LEC teams because of how
that
difficult.
Was a sly dig there, Doctor. That was a
I said none, but very few. I mean, we see very little in LPL or LCK as well. There are very few teams that are good enough to actually pilot this style of composition, because you have to be, so you're not allowed to be bloodthirsty. You have to be very controlled in how you execute in the early stages. And unfortunately for Viego Rogue, when you're not able to get the ball rolling, getting Sinmivak ahead in the early stages, you don't really have the tools you need to then start playing this long range at these fights.
And alongside that, if you fall behind with the poke comp,
it's gone.
You do nothing into a Malphite.
And that's one side of it. Then the other side is that, okay, there's this part about the champion kills, but as soon as the dragons come onto the table, it gets even worse. Because if you always have that slim amount of hope where you're like, we have dragons, they have to come answer us. They have to eat multiple rounds of poke, and when we outrange them, that's going to happen. That didn't happen either. It started falling apart across the board, even though there were some bright sparks with some overextensions from LDLC, particularly around that top side, and falling into the Viego's hands.
Yeah, and it's not only the fact that like you have these dragon fights, it's also a case of how you try to orchestrate around dragons, right? Because there was plenty of times here, specifically when I was looking at the third dragon that was potentially coming up, you could have actually tried to cross map here and look for like tier 2 on top side for Viego Rogue, and then you actually establish vision in top side and you're able to use your poke then for Baron. And this is the like decisions that are crucial to these types of compositions, where it's like, we are going to give some of this here so we gain more later. And unfortunately for Viego Rogue, I think it comes back to our conversation from the start of the day. Their mid-game decision making and how they play sidelines isn't the strongest, and I think this is a composition where you have to be on point with that.
Okay, so we have about a minute before we go over back to the casters, but I want to just push you guys quickly. If you were Viego Rogue, if you were looking at this, what would you change coming into game 2?
I think you want a draft that forces LDLC to have to be aggressive. Switch the roles, because I think LDLC are far too comfortable playing reactively in the early game and just saying you have to play into us. If you switch that up, maybe it makes them a little less comfortable, and that's going to be a start at least.
Still definitely a challenge there on Red's side. Rob, any other thoughts?
Stronger mid jungle, counter pick for Sinmivak. Like, I really want to see you actually get something that can be proactive in the early stages. And if you're going to go for something like this Ezra on the bot side, have the tools that can work alongside a support that's roaming to actually set up early game success.
A little bit more proactivity in the early game, it seems, for Viego Rogue. We'll see if LDLC's undefeated run continues to 11 in a row in game 2. So let's head over to our casters.
So, LDLC, we expected them to be winning some games. They won that first one. We've heard what the desk thinks in
Maybe
terms
they've won like 9 more uncontested.
I wouldn't know about that. I wasn't here. But Viego Rogue, we want to see a little bit more priority from them, a little bit more aggression. Do we think that we can see that in game number 2?
I mean, yeah, of course, they have the route adaptation this time around, but I do also agree with some sentiments that came along with the draft, coming in with that Jace pick and then just being counterpicked on the Malphite. When the game then later became about the team fights, yes, we did see some good Jace poke come through, but we never really got to see the team fight hammering through. So I think we need to settle on a playstyle. Either we play the side lanes where we can skirmish around the junglers, or you need to kind of recognize that this series, the meta is going to be about the team fighting.
Yeah, and I honestly wanted to say that I want to possibly see a Go Rogue on the red side, because it felt for me like, especially in the mid lane, I felt Eika had control from the very beginning, picking the LeBlanc into the Ahri, being able to side lane later on, being always one level up his counterpart, right? So now having the right side, you've got potential to counterpick not only top lane, but also mid lane as well, which I think is going to be very pivotal on the mid jungle duel that we've been hitting all the
Exactly.
time.
This is something that can allow you to say, okay, the first 2 picks, let's do jungler, let's do AD carry, mid lane on 3, support on 4, and then, you know, top on 5. And hopefully by then, you would have secured yourself better winning lanes. Problem right now is that there's always so many, don't want to say broken, but a lot of good champions that you can rotate on 2 and 3 on blue side that put you in a really good position where you can ban away the rest when the enemy moves on to the second ban phase.
Oh, I think the Volibear is going to be locked in with eyes closed right here, because it's one of these junglers that you pretty much just insta-lock. ST, really good early on in the jungle, really good early on to gank with, which is something that Yike doesn't necessarily like, which I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Viego here, expecting that Rabble might pick the Volibear.
It's very interesting if we would see that, because so far the meta at the European Masters had solidified that Volibear would be the pick you would lock in. Having a jungler that facilitates the laner would be the easier one, but we also talked about the junglers here today. They're not always about the facilitation.
We farm here, boys.
I mean, there's facilitation involved with junglers, just everyone else facilitating them.
Exactly.
You know, which is always something that
The
you love
recipient
to-
of it.
As a jungle player, I love that. EU Masters, Amazon European Masters, I love the meta. It's brilliant. Hate Ahri, but we won't get too much into that. It looks like Lucian is being considered for Ego Rogue. A little bit more proactivity.
Well, LeBlanc has played this one in the AD carry department, so this is not sure that it's going to the solo lane just yet, but we have also seen it in solo lanes.
Yes.
Sinmivak has also played it.
Yes, specifically top lane. We've seen Sagenda play it too. So this is a flex pick coming through. I'm suspecting to see jungle pick to come through here. You already know what the enemy is playing, so you might as well just lock in your own here and hide your cards in terms of your solo laners. Wow! I did not expect this today.
So this could be a mid-jungle duo that we've just seen locked in, because Nite
That's a
pretty
curveball.
much has the entire champion pool to his hands, right? We know that already. Sinmivak has played the Lucian, LeBlanc has played the Lucian. They all 3 can play it, but the thing is, what you need 80 laners around your Evelynn, right? To get that surprise pop-off factor with double the damage.
It's actually only one place I've seen that Evelynn has gotten priority, and that was when I was just looking through Australian teams for fun while doing some practice cast. I was like, wow, Evelynn is getting banned here. So we have seen this pop up in the meta on these patches, but not really in the European Masters. And Rabble, I think, to my knowledge, would be the first one to bring it out.
So what I'm wondering right here is, okay, you possibly have your 2 AD laners that you want to play around, right? But I'm seeing farming on the top side of the map. I'm seeing farming on the Lucian as well. And with the Evelynn, you usually want to be level 6 to be able to walk into someone's face undetected and have this ultimate to get out. Now, what I'm seeing from LDLC is already a lot of kiting. You've got the Viego to kite backwards. He's also got the ultimate to get away from the Evelynn and all the damage. You've got the Sion, who's going to be very beefy on a side lane. And then you've got an Aphelios, which is your ticket for the later on stages of the game. I want to see a Go Rogue with some priority lanes to allow the Evelynn to stay in her jungle and actually farm to that level 6. Because if LDLC get proactive solo lane again in the mid lane and you invade that Evelynn, you can ruin Rabble's game very early on.
Now hold on. Why is Malphite getting banned when we see a Sion on the opposing side? Is this Tryndamere going to be flexed into the mid lane and they're afraid that they're going to put a Malphite in the mid lane as well?
Do you know what?
Maybe?
We've seen these lane assignments from Ego Rogue already this tournament. We've seen that in group stages.
Yeah, it was
Maybe
against
they won't
Vitality.
swap. Maybe they won't swap. Maybe everyone is picking their champions.
Actually, it was against them. I do believe it was a Go Rogue where they swapped with the Rengar and Ivern. They had the Ivern Bud, and then they picked an AD mid lane, and it was into the Malphite as well. No, that was the Gwen mid. They thought, okay, listen, we have seen Malphite in mid lane.
Oh, no.
That's kind of what we're just going
It's
by
happening.
here.
This could be the Soraka lock-in right here for LeBlanc. I think it makes so much sense. You've got the Lucian, possibly solo lane, the Tryndamere in a side lane, with possibly maybe even again Hullbreaker or just shoving down a side lane with a Soraka global. Could be huge. LeBlanc has played it before. It has been a problem for teams previously. And here, it just makes absolute sense to me because you have a lot of AD on the other side of the map. You've got a lot of AP with the Evelynn as well. The Ashe, though.
I would have actually picked a support here. I feel like picking a support
Maybe
would like...
she's support.
It's Rogue.
Fair enough. Picking a support here would have hit your cards more. You didn't have to tell where your AD carries are going. You didn't have to tell where your top laner is going in terms of where that Lucian actually is. So very interesting stylistic coming in through here from a Go Rogue, but it's very much on par with what we know them for. Even in Ultra League, they're playing stuff like Seraph bot lane as well to play for the top side instead. This is way more crazy though, and I think they have quickly become the mad scientist of our tournament, something that used to belong to Gamer Legion, but a Go Rogue now has completely solidified for themselves.
They took the duo from the Gamer Legion, right? Nite and Rabble, so they brought some of that craziness with them, and the Tam Ken's coming through next to the Aphelios. I feel like this is a very, sorry, I thought it was locked in, but this is a very LDLC draft, right? Eika, again, on his LeBlanc, very dominant in the previous game. You've got the kiting potential with Sion, with Viego, with Rakan. You've got the goal potential as well with all these 3 champions. And then you've got your ticket to the late game, which is that Aphelios. And I'm looking at a Go Rogue and I'm like, I don't know,
any
man.
takers? What role is coming through here quickly? I think we're looking
this
at...
is going to be, I don't know.
Mid lane.
No, this is going to be support.
It's going to be the support you know.
No, but Ashe is going to go support. Oh, that's not a flex pick. That could be a support as well. beansu has played Sett early as well. He is a role swap top lane onto the support's position. So this is way more comfort, but there we have it.
You did say that it was everyone picking their champion.
If Nite doesn't swap with Sinmivak, everyone's picked their champion.
I think we will see the Tryndamere going... Actually, no, I'm not even going to put
I think it is going to be mid,
I don't think so. I think it's going to be mid lane because it just makes sense, right? LeBlanc cannot assassinate you when you have that ultimate level 6, and then early on, that Lucian can bully away the Sion. My only problem here is that you're running 3 AD lanes, and fair enough, you've got an Evelynn, but who in the world killed Sion later on?
This is like running into a solo queue game, and your teammates just don't have the champions to trade, so you're actually just picking them in your own position here, and there you have it. It is actually Sinmivak with that Lucian on the top side going into the Sion. I mean, you kind of lose your prowess the later the game goes on, and I think Sion is very happy going into that matchup. I mean, yes, you will get poked out a little bit in the beginning, and yes, Sinmivak have to play, or Ragner rather, have to play a pick on the back foot, but once you finally hit level 6, there's actually kill pressure on towards the Lucian, especially if the Junks is up there, so interesting dynamics. I'm not going to throw my coins away at which composition I favor just yet, but this game is definitely interesting.
Well, we're going to be jumping right onto the Rift for our second game of the day. The semi-finals of the Amazon European Masters. LDLC take to the blue side. AGO Rogue on the red. Hey, we wanted a question from AGO Rogue. They've given it to us in draft.
So this is going to be, if we look from lane to lane to lane, a very difficult mid lane matchup for Nite, at least at the very start, right? Because the LeBlanc will be very easy to trade into him since it's melee versus ranged, and LeBlanc does hurt a lot, especially with the electrocute, having the ignite there as well. You've got the kill potential coming through. So Nite is going to suffer a lot pre-6. Post-6, he's still gonna suffer a lot, but at least he's gonna have his ultimate to not get assassinated in the mid lane. So again, we're running into a scenario where even though Rabble wants to be left alone in his own devices in the jungle to get that level 6 really quickly on the Evelynn, you have an Eika who's going to be shoving in mid, poking down your Tryndamere, and then Yike can very easily enter the jungle together with Eika and find you.
I think for LDLC with this composition, name of the game is just starting this Drake stacking in the early game. Like, you would love if they are forced to suddenly shorten their map pool on the side of a Go Rogue and have to come into a chokehold. They don't have a lot of team fighting tools in their arsenal. They're very much about opening the map on a Go Rogue. They're about playing the side lanes. So if you can stack the objectives in the early game, you can kind of mitigate the win condition that would come through for a Go Rogue.
I think the very funny thing here is that we mentioned who in the world kills the Sion later on? Because Evelynn is not a consistent AP damage dealer. She deals a lot of burst damage, and then she gets back once she has the ultimate to get out of the fight. So I feel like beansu locking in the Sett right here is like, oh shoot, we have no one to kill the Sion. He's like, I know, I'm just gonna toss him out of the fight every single time, and no one has to deal with him.
I mean, they'll have to deal with him eventually.
Eventually.
Because, of course, he has the ultimate, and Sion, as we know throughout this tournament, can be very, very difficult. But Nite, he's going to already have to heal up. Eika going to be continuously making his life miserable.
Yeah, Eika very happy once again on the LeBlanc. I think I'm also looking forward to when we get towards that second clear, third clear, maybe even for the junglers, that how are they going to interact with each other? Last time around, we saw Rabble. He was very happy to go in there, counter jungle on the Raptors. On an Evelynn, yes, you're still very happy to get ahead of the curve. You're all about hitting that level 6, but you don't have the same agency that Yike did earlier, or Rabble rather did early on the car 6, or Viego. I go on rappling for ages, but once again, I still feel like it's in Yike's favor.
beansu's putting some damage down, hit level 2 first, Exakick has to walk away, Doss will be able to stumble out as well, cleanse birthday.
And I'm thinking right now, you've got Ashe and you've got the Sett. Your Evelynn is heading towards the bot side of the map. Could we potentially see shenanigans for the dive? Because the Tribush has already been warded from the side of LDLC, and you have got the cleanse taken away from Exakick. So the second Rabble will walk into that Tribush, the bot lane from LDLC will know that potentially dive is coming through. They're only level 6, they're only level 2. Rogue's bot lane is level 3.
And Cleanse has already been burned. They're just going to go for this one, I feel like.
Yeah, they're looking for it. beansu stepping forward, getting the punch. Will be taking up tower. A lot of damage. First blood, Rabble, as Rogue make it work. DOS takes a punch, but should be able to
continue here.
Ooh, I don't know. He's going to be in a lot of trouble here, trying to walk away from the tower. Gets the knock up. LeBlanc actually taking the tower shot. Will have to heal to get away, but it's a double for Evelynn.
So well played right there from Rogue. They don't waste any of their summoners early on. They literally walk them down, knowing they're only level 2, knowing there's no cleanse for Exakick as well. It was so well executed at the end. Laka also tanks the tower as well so well, puts down that slow, and suddenly that Evelynn that wants to reach level 6 really quickly and be very dangerous has 2 kills bunked up pre-level 4.
Yeah,
pre-mini 4.
This is definitely a coach team, right? You see Rabble skips the Scuttlecrab, he skips the Gromp as well, just walks down there on a sets-up wave on Grape 3 as well, and as you said, Laka tanking it up, making sure that the frontliners who's closest to the turret, who will have the longest time running away from it, will not be under any danger.
Rabble might be in danger.
Yeah, gonna get knocked up. Yike moving forward with the flash. The Ignite's burning down, and that's gonna be a shutdown going over to DOS. Not super fortunate, but Yike needs to be careful. We'll be able to bounce away.
Blubber?
Well, NA Scuttle might be coming through there. DOS looking for beansu too. Yike.
Ooh, looking to try and get the charm going down, but won't be able to find it, and they're just gonna move back.
A little bit overzealous right there, trying to get the Scuttlecrab for the bot side of the map, because now you're putting your bot side of the map into a lot of danger. There is a wave that's been built up from Exakick as well, and Rogue have to play extremely careful, which means that Rabble cannot go to the other side of his map and start farming his top side.
Here's the return though. Eika had the mid lane priority. He's moving down as well. We might see another dive come through here if they're bold enough for it.
Eika is moving. Anything you can do, I can do better. But LDLC decide against, and will just push in the wave and look potentially for a plate.
But they can allow themselves to do this, right? Eika doesn't lose anything of having downtime like this. He crashed the mid lane wave bounced back, and there you have it. He can still farm up the melee creeps that's coming in.
And I think the most important thing here is that you stop Rabble from farming. You cash in on that shutdown. You stop him from farming. You've seen the Evelynn bot side of the map. You're like, okay, so that means that Rabble moves towards the top side of the map. So we're going to keep him on the bot side and then invade with mid lane prior was Eika is there. And that's exactly what's happening for LDLC.
And Rabble just going to be chased away from his chickens, but he's going to move back forward. Of course, Eika has to push him, so he's going to be able to come in for the support as the smite comes through.
And this is what I tried to get at, how the junglers interact with each other. In a matchup that's Viego into Evelynn, it is Viego who gets to be the aggressor. Evelynn likes to be on her own side of the map, doesn't have too much agency in her kit, and she kind of has to play defensive once she hits that level 6 spike. This time around, the Rabble, his smite, it's true, and he still retains some of that experience in his own jungle.
And Nite has hit that level 6, so he's got that defensive ultimate. If he wants to burn it through, Eika going to be throwing that one down, and grabs level 6 as well, so he's going to be able to put through so much damage. I'm just a mild little bit worried for the Tryndamere as we move forward.
Yeah, and I think it's all been about Eika and Nite in the mid lane, right? Once you want to facilitate your junglers, you need to have 2 strong mid lanes. And so far, Nite has not had a lot of priority to do so. You see that our XP difference at 15, gold difference at 15 is pretty much the same during this Amazon European Masters. But you go down to the solo kills, and Eika might be coming up ahead there.
Oh yeah, but it's also just the style this brings to the team composition, because yes, the mid laners are great here, but these mid laners having these stats while not being facilitated, right? These are the individual prowess that we see in the laners. They get these advantages for themselves, and then they use these advantages for their junglers. This has been so reliant for both teams in terms of getting ahead, and this is why this matchup is so interesting as well, because they function the same way despite having very wacky drafts from my Go Rogue. Stylistically, they have the same flourish where it's getting mid-head, and then using that awareness, or not, that lead, rather, on the side of Rabble.
And that's something that I really love, because we look at these Ego Rogue drafts, we say, look, they're mad scientists, they go for stuff that's a little bit weird, but you can see the fundamentals that other teams are playing. They can do it just as well in a lot of different situations. For Ego Rogue, that's what's brought them this far in this tournament.
And I feel like a lot of the times for teams, it could also be the win con, it could also be the downside. Look at Bisons, they tried to do the exact same thing. It didn't go so well for them, didn't make it out of groups. Go Rogue are doing the same thing. A lot more successfully. But LDLC are like, we don't have to fall into the trap. A lot of the times when teams think that they are the better team, they will play the more simple to execute compositions. They will play the compositions that scale better into the late game. They will out-team fight you in the later on stages due to better vision, due to better team fighting macro that they have. And so far, LDLC have come to this tournament. They've not lost a single game. They've won 10, and it's been through that team fighting prowess that they've done so.
Yeah, on that note as well, I was speaking to Fnatic's Barker as well, who obviously had played against Bison, who was very happy about these wacky drafts. I'm going to hold it as I did hear a Sion ultimate. And Rabble is getting checked by Yike.
Yike's just going to chase up towards the Evelynn, but it looks like there's a little bit too much time, a little bit too much warning for Ego Rogue as they move away.
Yeah, but to go back to the point, what he essentially was saying is just, well, when you're playing against like team that you can't prepare for, there's no need trying to use your mentality doing it. You can only bring your own strengths to it, your own strong fundamentals, and that's kind of what we're seeing as well from LDLC. They do what they do best, just with their own style.
Now, going to be up towards that Rift Herald, going to be picking it up for LDLC. You've got to imagine, first Herald of the game, and this time, of course, in last game, they didn't manage to pick up the eye, so it wasn't utilized. Now they can look to try and grab that investment.
Success.
Well, it is, right? And it's not contested this time around, as we can already see from Go Rogue. They're not about contesting these chokeholds, these teamfight scenarios. They want to just scale ahead on the map, get your items on the side laners, and then open it up, have your bot lane in the mid lane potentially. But the problem is, you need to be at a stage where you open up the mid lane terrain, where you open up these side lanes. And right now, you're not really getting any agency to do that. Yes, you had a good dive from the bot lane in the beginning, but much more haven't come out of it yet. And that's what we need to see from a Go Rogue for them to accelerate that point to their own win condition.
And it all comes down to them overextend a lot of the times, right? Like we saw in the previous game as well. Rabble overextends to get the scuttle card. What happens? Yike takes back a lot of the power that was taken away from him from that bot lane dive. He cashes into the shutdown. He takes the kill. They grab the scuttle crab as well. So it all goes south. So an Evelynn that should have been ahead in CS, should have been ahead in levels, and should have been ahead in gold due to the double kill as well, is sort of falling even with the Viego. And if you look at the items, they look pretty even to me as well.
Absolutely, and we talked about how this bottom lane might be super crucial in this game, trying to control the choke points around the dragons. The early objective is actually Ego Rogue, who managed to secure themselves the first one, but it's 9 minutes 50 in, it's pretty late, all things considered.
Also, really quickly, I just wanted to point out at Ragner's inventory right here, and I'm seeing this being built, and I'm like, this is the easiest frozen heart of his life. And
Sinmivak's in a lot of trouble. The Ignite's being burnt low. He's going to get slowed and taken out. Eika's just killed, but now Nite's here using that Ghost, trying to chase down his lane opponent and cut him down to size. Ragnar's there, but it's going to move towards the sun, but it's tanky enough to slow, actually. Nite takes a beating.
I'm going back to my point. You saw how Nite is not doing much damage to the LeBlanc even. Imagine when Frozen Heart comes through. Ooh. When all this attack speed is going to be cut down from the Lucian, from the Tryndamere, from the Ashe, Rabble.
I don't know if you can take that 1v1. Needs to be careful backing away towards the tower. The ultimate comes down, but it's going to be returned as Rabble gets away.
Rift Tower's still in inventory as well if they want to get aggressive here, but it can also just move down towards the bot side. You can see the rotations already coming through. Exakick, he shifted his pressure from bot side into the mid lane instead, making sure that they're not losing any CS whatsoever. Now Resets comes through, Doss on the way down towards the bottom. Maybe he can hold the wave, but still, LDLC, they're playing the map very beautifully here.
Yeah, and we'll see this once again right here because Ragnar takes a really aggressive trade onto Sinmivak. He's going to walk in, put down his Ignite, and Eika is just going to finish the deal right there. LeBlanc diving underneath the tower, Ragnar was tanking, and then Nite comes in a little bit too late, doesn't do any damage yet. He only has boots in his inventory, so he's not able to trade the kill. That is 1 kill for Eika, and we just mentioned how he really likes these kills because he makes them work. The gold percentage he gets with the damage percentage is equal.
Yeah, but look at the Go Rogue on the map as well this time around. They're stuck around the top side for too long. No one's in the mid lane. No one's down towards the bot side to actually help them here. They still get aggressive.
Well, the cleanse has been used. The charge comes through, but on the back line, the Sion Ragnar cuts him down to size as LDLC pick up a kill and a whole bunch of blinks.
And that was the point I wanted to get at. Right, Go Rogue, their own tempo was so off here. Ragnar, he managed to recall, come through with the ultimate as well. And just look at the minimap. Nite has just backed on the Tryndamere. Sinmivak was in the mid lane, moves up towards the top side now, and no one's in a position to cover for this bot lane. Essentially, this is already a lost objective, and yes, as you highlight, Trouble, Shelly pushing beansu into the ultimate of Ragnar. Very beautiful.
That was really well played, actually, from LDLC. And Shelly, well, she was in their pockets, right? So ultimately she's gonna play for them.
Of
It's an
course,
extra
biased.
member, absolutely. But I just really like what you highlighted, that we're behind the play. Everyone from a Go Rogue were resetting. They use that Rift Herald towards the bottom of the map. And Exakick is again ahead. He casts in on the entire tower of turret platings. Rabble!
Doss taking a whole heap of damage, but now Rabble needs to be careful. Yike's moving forward. It's going to be a 3v3 if Doss wants to get back involved, but Rabble could be cut down besides it. A lot of damage as the dunk comes through from beansu. That's a lot onto Yike, but Exakick will secure the kill. Now members from both teams are moving down from mid lane, want to get involved. Doss being chased through, but look at Lucka. He's looking towards Exakick. There's a decent amount of damage as Lucka will be coming through. Yike as well, and they cut down the size. Double kill for the Aphelios as Eika needs to be a little bit careful. beansu so low. Will be chased back down towards his tower. Eika's going to dive back in, helps get Yike a kill, and now we're going to see Nite moving forward, looking towards Eika, but there's going to be the clone as Yike traps him back in as Sett. There's the Undying Rage. What can Nite do? He just doesn't have the damage, looking towards Eika, but can't find it. Disaster for Viego Rogue.
And there's just so much mobility that Nite can't connect any of the auto attacks down, and that feels miserable saying, because they're point and click.
And look at that, look at the outplay. Doss taunts Rabble before he can ult. Rabble keeps his ultimate until Yike tries to ult him, but he never does. Rabble tries to ult out because he's low HP. Exakick flashes in, and look on the other side of the map. You have Nite chasing again, but he does no damage, and Doss manages to get out, and Yike is helping Exakick with the remaining member, and because he takes Ashe, he then can wrap around to stop beansu from escaping with these arrows. And then when Nite walks in, he gets knocked up right underneath the tower. I feel like the mechanical outplay that came in here from LDLC was otherworldly.
Yike and Eika still pressuring on.
Oh, the awesome Exakick from downtown.
And this team right now, they're just so confident. You look at them, they're feeling themselves. Doss around the back here. Nite still doesn't have the ultimate either, so he needs to back off.
It feels going from bad to worse for Viego Rogue in this matchup. LDLC have been able to move mid lane, and now they're looking towards top.
And especially since we said a Go Rogue, it's about getting the laners ahead, about opening the map, but it's LDLC who's punishing on this, and now they can get ahead in the teamfight scenarios around the objective as well. Now with mid lane open up, it allows them to play for these side lanes, and a Go Rogue's composition, this is where it starts to falter. You need to be the one ahead. Now you've fallen behind. Now it's so difficult to retain your own side of the jungle.
I'm just gonna say, what own side of the jungle? Because top lane, top side jungle doesn't belong to you. Bot side jungle was just taken away from
That
you.
was the jungle I was mentioning.
Every single other objective is being taken away from you, evidently in front of us as well. So that is the first dragon from LDLC. And honestly, it feels like a go next angle for Rogue. They're falling apart in the seams. And you mentioned it, when LDLC feel confident enough to pull off these plays, they're the scariest. And look at the first item from Sion as well. It's going to cut down the damage that's not even there yet.
He's just going to be rooted up. He roots himself up, gets knocked up and taken low. Will be secured by Eika. As Zig Ragnar, Tokyo drifting, but can't find Lucka.
And I wonder if you know how they live in Tokyo, but now LDLC.
See what you did there.
LDLC are able once again to just shove in the mid lane, gain priority on the side lanes if they want to. And I quickly just want to touch about the point you made there, Trouble. Is it already too late? I kind of agree with you on that sentiment, because you drafted a composition. I want to take it back to what Dacta said as well on the desk. Some of these drafts coming through is something that are so difficult to pilot. Even teams like LPL or teams in the LCK have difficulties trying to properly execute them. And I still feel like if you want to succeed, maybe you have to go back to something of these easy to execute. Maybe you have to go back to something that is front to back, where the fighting will become about the objective, because at least then you'll still have a win conditions once we come to the last soul point, once we come to the Baron and Elder Drake. But with the composition that Go Rogue has right now, it just feels so difficult for them to accelerate their pressure on the map, which is so needed for it to function.
And as we can see, they've started up the second Rift Herald, but Doss trying to solo it, but he's Rakan, so Yike comes in and says, don't worry, buddy. I'll help you out. We'll grab this second objective together. But they actually, Doss is like, no, you know what? You didn't help me first time. I'm going to look towards beansu. Going to land the knock up. Ike's there as well. And now Yike's going to be able to join the party, but all to go over the wall, looking towards Sett. Won't be able to find him. Teleport coming on through. The ultimate from Ashe goes wide. It doesn't hit anyone. As Exakick secures first kill of the fight. Now the nice double jump coming through from Doss. The CC is there. The damage is there. LDLC running through the fight. Ragner playing bouncer. Will jump into the face of the Lucian, taking him out as Rabble is going to try and sneak away. Has to dive forward, looking for Dots, but can't find him. It's heartbreak for Ego Rogue.
And we're only 16 minutes into the game. I was looking, okay, are we getting it buried? No, it's just second Rift Herald. And it's still with this. Mid lane has already been opened up. Ike can look on towards the top side. With this Shelly in hand, they can open up so much more once they finally get their resets through. Once again, they're just stealing the jungle away from a Go Rogue. So they're winning the team fights, they're getting the map control, and they're taking away all the camps. And Go Rogue, they have nothing but scraps on the map, not even scraps.
And you mentioned it, because LDLC are taking everything, the investment time on the Herald is just worth it because you have nothing else to do on the map for LDLC. But at Go Rogue, once again, they overstep. You possibly know that the second Rift Herald is going down, and they feel like fighting at this point because you know why? When you have one Mythic versus 1.5, you want to try and take that chance, especially when you have an Evelynn. Maybe an assassination will come through, but it's just not happening. The pain train is also going to come in from Ragner right there, and I feel like they're just individually outplaying Rogue at this point.
Absolutely, and I mean, the saddest thing about that whole team fight was Nite going forward, auto-attacking the Sion once and realizing this isn't for me, and just sliding away.
Frozen heart.
But it's why it's such a pet peeve for me to see a Lucian top, and specifically into tanks, because you're like, laning phase, it feels so good. I can just push away this guy. I can be up like 10 to 20 CS maybe. But then you hit a point where you hit level 6 and the first armor item starts coming through and you're just not a champion anymore. You don't have side lane pressure. I feel like if they wanted to succeed this better, I mean, maybe a Camille would have had to come through from the side of Sinmivak, but still, I think the sentiment of my point is just that this draft is not working for Go Rogue.
Observers, thank you so much. The entire map is lights out for a Go Rogue. And you have an Evelynn. The Evelynn wants to be able to try and flank, get behind your squishy carries, get a quick assassination in, get a quick shutdown in. Everyone has one on the side of LDLC. Maybe some quick gold influx will help with your Evelynn, but it's just not happening. LDLC have marked the entire top quadrant of the jungle from Rabble, and they're just playing through it with Shirley.
Sinmivak's in a lot of trouble. Charmed up, knocked up, taken out. Eika secures the kill. The tower might go the same way. Rogue moving in to defend their inhibitor towers 19 minutes in as LDLC move towards their base and may well get the Herald charge on this one as well.
It's just looking so uncomfortable for a Go Rogue. They get picked up on the side lane. Good proactivity from Doss, and still Shelly. She might even get a charge at the Nexus turret if no one's stopping her.
Oh, Rabble might.
Oh, they're going to look towards it. Rabble needs to try and get something nice from the Pro Belt to keep their Nexus towers healthy. But now we're going to see Ragnar diving forward, gets the charge, gets the knock-up, and that's going to be Evelynn's trading her life. Nite moving forward, look towards Yike, who is taking up tower. The knock-up will be big as Eika moves forward, gets the assassination, tries to get away, dunked down towards Yike, who stays alive, and now beansu needs to run. Sinmivak opening up the culling, has respawned, but it's looking towards Ragnar, who doesn't take that much damage. The heal from Doss keeps him alive, and now they're going to move forward. They're continuing the pressure.
They just can't die. They're just sitting in base with 1% HP and they just can't die. But LDLC does not get overconfident right here, and it's very important because you mentioned that every single member except Doss has a shutdown on them. We've seen these comebacks happen, especially in the LEC as well, and LDLC will play it more slow. But right here, Rabble would charge his Rocket Bell to take down the Shelly to just stop the siege.
I don't know, Trouble. They look pretty overconfident to me, okay? I just feel like they're not getting punished for it this time around because they are diving turrets 19 minutes into the game. They're moving forward to the objective source. Look at Ragnar. He sat there emote spamming. If this is not overconfident, I'm not sure what is. But LDLC, they are leaving their mark in this series so far, specifically in this second game, looking even better than the first.
Ragnar, where are you going, buddy?
There.
What was the...
There.
Was there a plan behind that one?
Yeah, it's like I don't have teleport. How am I going to get there quickly? It's the Arbat.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're going to move towards Dragon because we've got LDLC just thinking about that one.
I don't think Agora will walk in anyway, so he's not going to use ultimate anytime soon.
I mean, do they need the Silos? But at this point is the real question. He can just use it for mobility because he's not going to need it to stay alive or to get big engages going down, pushing towards this mid lane tower, wanting to grab even more territory.
And the LFL dominance just continues. The last seed of Ultra League, Go Rogue here, not even looking competitive in this game.
Eika's in trouble though. Rabble gets a decent amount of damage down. The shutdown from Evelynn, the start of the comeback.
And just as I started saying they're not looking competitive, Rabble shuts me down immediately.
Keep casting it. Keep casting it.
Yeah, LDLC, you're just looking too good right now. There's no way a Go Rogue gets back into this game.
Nah, that's me, buddy. I do this and it works. You can't
well, you did the monologue and look what you did.
They're the underdog here, GoBook. They're the underdog.
Fnatic was the underdog against Top Esports too.
Oof. Oh, while they have a fight to my right, we're going to see the Dragon start up. LDLC going to be able to grab this one. Don't think there's going to be a contest around here. They managed to get a pick, but Ago Rogue still not really in this game. The gold lead is massive. The itemization is huge from LDLC. And it looks so difficult for the Ultra League.
I just don't understand where your damage is going to come from if you are a Go Rogue. We mentioned once the Frozen Heart comes through from Ragner, you've got 3 auto-attack champions. 3 champions that want to auto-attack. You cut down their attack speed, they can't do ish to you if you're the Sion. And it's not just the Sion, it's like the aura around him. They can't touch anyone else either. And so far, I'm scratching my head here. I'm sitting here, I'm like, what does this Ashe do, actually, in this entire series? Because I have not seen anything.
Well, did you see when there were no vision in that jungle? She were able to fly birds in there, and then they could see that all the camps were gone.
I think Yike put that Ashe into better use than LeBlanc has so far.
I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but it's definitely a very outrageous statement at the same time. Eika now playing on 2 lanes again with LDLC, pushing in the mid lane, the rest of them pushing down towards the bottom side, and they're not even doing this with Baron Bot, but they're just so far ahead that they can allow themselves to do this. The sieging, so difficult. Ragner has teleport as well, can deploy it on a minion if he wants to, and yeah, there you have it.
Gonna be pushing forward towards this bot lane tower, want to break open the base even further as Ragner moving forward, looking towards beansu, but of course Ragner, he may be very strong, but he's also a projectile if beansu can get the right ultimate down as the culling comes through. Just keep members away. Eika on the side though, looking towards Rabble, gonna be caught out ulting into his own base, but follow through from Yike, who secures the kill, and now Ago Rogue in full retreat. They're forced back towards their towers. beansu jumps on and taken out. Double kill for Yike as he's gonna take another body. Now they can look back towards the inhibitors.
And just like that, they continue the siege, can move down towards the mid lane if they want to afterwards, but once again, LDLC, they're looking for an end on a wave here.
Just going to keep pressuring forward. There's members defending from Ago Rogue as we might see the end of the game. The dive forward onto the Tryndamere. Nite's going to have to go on dive and chasing members of LDLC away, but he just does nothing. LDLC take the first Nexus tower, but it doesn't look like they're pushing for more.
And this is just partial burst sieging as well. They can move on to the mid lane now and then try and take care of the inhibitor.
And look at the waves, they're pushing everywhere. Top lane wave is pushing in, mid lane wave is gonna crash as well. Bot lane wave is crashing in. That is the last chance for a Go Rogue.
They're gonna try and dunk Sion back. It's only gonna land on the dot, and it doesn't do very much. The final fight could well be here. Ragner chase back, goes low, but survives. Ago Rogue are trying to defend, but they're losing members as Yike moves forward. Another kill for Godlike. They lose Lucian as well as FLICKR is chased away. The minion waves start crashing through as LDLC can continue their undefeated streak.
Yeah, next one coming through here. We have FLICKR trying to do what he can, but it's just not enough. They're playing with the food at this point. LDLC relentless once again from the LFL.
It looks like we could be set up for an all LFL final if it continues going like this. LDLC will remain undefeated 11-0 here at the Amazon European Masters as they look to take down the Nexus. Ragnar doesn't want to be in the final picture as the Nexus explodes.
Holy. That's all I'm gonna say, because this game, first game you could say was competitive. This game was a slacking from literally the very beginning. I saw the Evelynn 2-0 and I'm like, you know what? Maybe Rabble on the Evelynn 2-0 maybe can work. One overextension shut down the game completely from LDLC.
That was the thing though, it was a beautiful setup in the early game where it's like, okay, yeah, go Rogue. You just had a crazy dive towards the bot side, losing nothing. You're looking really good coming in towards this one. And then they just completely dropped the ball. The laners started falling behind on the top side as well. Ragnar on the Sion. Nothing Sinmivak could do to it. Eika once again on the LeBlanc. Just too dangerous, man.
It's too much damage coming through from every aspect and too much tankiness. No one was really able to do anything at all. It's now 11 wins in a row for LDLC, who are just 1 win away from the Amazon EU Masters Finals. We'll be back for a breakdown after this.